What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. Well, for today I have a very cheap phone that pleasantly surprised me, and that doesn't happen very often. So this is called the Vkworld Mix Plus, a phone that costs somewhere around $110. So this is another so-called bezel-less phone from China, but if you compare this with all the other bezel-less phones that we had on the channel here, well, you're gonna notice that this one has the least amount of bezels, which was quite unbelievable considering the price. Comparing this to the Doogie Mix that costs almost double, well, you can definitely tell that the Vkworld looks better, so we are getting closer and closer to that bezel-less design that we are all hoping for. Now, since the price is so low, we are definitely not getting the best specs out there. So we are getting a MTK6737, this is a quad-core CPU, we have 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of internal storage, and the device is running Android 7. Now, out of that 32 gigs of internal storage, you have about 25 gigs left, and that's kind of enough for most people, but if it's not, you can easily install an SD card as internal storage. The phone itself is quite small and probably one of the smallest phones with a 5.5-inch screen, but because of the low price, well, we don't get premium materials, so we don't have a metallic frame, for example. But even like this, the phone looks very good, and nobody's ever gonna imagine that this phone costs only about $110. So in my opinion, the phone looks great. Now, before we go on, can you guys help me out by pressing that like button? It's gonna help this video quite a lot. Alright, so moving back to the phone, so on the front it's where the magic happens, if we can say that. So basically we have a 5.5-inch screen with a 720p resolution that has very small bezels. Even like that, we still get a very small speaker all the way to the top there, and the speaker actually sounds quite good. So they obviously had to move the front-facing camera to the bottom, so they placed this right in the center. And on the left-hand side, at the bottom there, I believe that we have the proximity and the light sensor, but we actually don't. So, since we don't have a light sensor, you're gonna have to adjust the brightness manually, and that's not totally horrible, but what I don't exactly like is the fact that we don't have a proximity sensor. Now, the phone is using the accelerometer to turn off the screen when you're making phone calls, but that will depend how you're sitting whenever you're making calls, because if you're laying in bed, it's not gonna work that well. So those are the main downsides to this phone. Now, the 5.5-inch screen looks very good. I mean, it gets bright enough so you can actually see the phone outside. The viewing angles are really good, and the sensitivity is also better than a lot of other phones. I haven't had any issues with the touchscreen sensitivity, mostly when I was typing or playing games or browsing or anything. So the screen looks and performs very well. Moving on to the front-facing camera, so we have a 5-megapixel sensor. Now, every time you want to take a picture, you're gonna have to turn the phone around, because if you take the picture like this, the pictures look kind of strange. So you always have to turn the phone around, and as you'd expect, the quality from the pictures is not the greatest. I mean, if you take pictures with lots of light, the pictures look okay, but in low light, well, you can't really see anything. And since we are talking about cameras, on the back next to the fingerprint scanner and the flash, we have a 8-megapixel sensor that's interpolated to 13 megapixels. The camera app is fairly quick considering the CPU that we have inside this phone, but we don't really have that many options and settings. But considering the price of the phone, I think that's more than normal. Now, the pictures that you're gonna take in daylight look quite good. I mean, don't imagine like Samsung Galaxy S8 quality, but still acceptable for a phone that costs around $110. Nighttime pictures, as you'd expect, they don't look that great. However, they actually look better than a lot of other phones that I've seen. So if we take that Doogie BL7000 or the Doogie Mix, I believe that the nighttime pictures that I took with this cheap phone actually look better. And we're moving back to the physical aspect of the phone. So as you've seen, the back is super shiny and it actually looks very good. It's made out of plastic, but it doesn't stay clean for long. I mean, every single time you touch it, well, you're gonna leave fingerprints on it. So you always have to clean it. On the right hand side of the phone, we have the power buttons and 2 volume keys, one up, one down. On top, we have the micro USB charging port, the 3.5mm audio jack, and on the other side, we have the SIM card tray slot. All the way at the bottom, you're gonna find that it looks like 2 speakers. However, we only have 1 speaker and 1 microphone, and I'm not sure what the other one is. The phone also supports OTG and kind of fast charging, and I'm saying kind of fast charging because it's not that fast, so it's still gonna take you around 2 hours and 20 minutes to fully charge this from 0 to 100. Now, surprisingly, the sound coming out of the 3.5mm audio jack is better than a lot of other phones that are more expensive. The 1 speaker at the bottom of the phone sounds great as well, and even though it doesn't get that loud, it's very crisp and very clear. But here is a quick sample of how it sounds.
Stop building.
Since we are talking about charging earlier, we might as well talk about the battery life. So inside this phone we have a 2850 mAh battery, and the results that I got were quite good. So I was able to make it through an entire day on one charge, and out of that about 5 hours of screen on time. So for a phone that costs around $110, I believe that's very good. Performance-wise, well, I wasn't expecting much considering that we have that MTK6737 processor, so the scores that I got on the Antutu benchmark and the Geekbench 4 weren't that surprising. Now, I was surprised about how good games work on this phone, so I played a couple of games and they work just as good as on the Helio P25, so quite surprising. Now, the browser didn't do as good as gaming, so whenever you're scrolling up, scrolling down, zooming in, zooming out, there is a small delay, and I was hoping it would do better considering how well gaming worked, but no. Now, on the YouTube app, no issues whatsoever. The maximum resolution is obviously 720p, which is the resolution of the screen, but all the videos that I watched at that resolution did work very well. The GPS unit inside the phone is decent, maybe not the best that I've seen, but definitely great for this price range, and the phone also supports 4G connectivity. Of course, there is no NFC, but we have dual band Wi-Fi. And of course, I tried the speeds over Wi-Fi and over the 4G connection, they're quite good as well. As for the operating system, the phone comes pre-installed with Android 7 right out of the box. Now we have this childish looking launcher on top of that Android 7, however it's not that bad, and scrolling in between screens, opening apps and everything else works pretty decent. The phone also packs some features that may be useful for some, so one of them would be the ability to change those navigation buttons at the bottom of the screen. So if you want the back button on the other side, you can do that from the software, and you can also answer phone calls, take pictures or stuff like that with a fingerprint scanner. So some things that could be useful. Multitasking is also acceptable, but the more apps you have running in the background, the slower the phone gets, so there is no way around that. We don't have a powerful CPU, we don't have that much RAM, so don't keep that many apps running in the background if you want the phone to work somewhat smoothly. And it's time to conclude this video. So this phone is not gonna win any performance awards. I mean, this is not a fast phone by any means, but the price is not that high either. And the phone can perform good enough so you can actually do whatever you wanna do with it. Aside from that, I believe that this looks the best out of all the other bezel-less phones that we've seen from China lately. And it may be just me, but I think this one has the smallest bezels that we had until now. Of course, the phone is far from being perfect, but like anything else, you get what you pay for. And I believe that for this price, this offers amazing value. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.